Hey everybody, it's Jody from Life by Design and welcome. And today I'm going to show you how to assemble our cute little dog gift basket. So we have our little basket that has our handles that go up and down, and it comes with a little Yorkie card, and you can write a message on his belly. And we have a couple little feet, little toes that we can add to the basket or put around the message for him to hold. So I want to show you how to assemble it, so let's get started. And the first thing I want to do is lay out our supplies after you have them cut out from the cutting machine. So we have our little base. Now, one of the things you're going to notice as I'm laying these out, that two things. We have multiple brown colors. Here are the straps, okay? These are the side panels. But one of the things that you'll probably notice is that I already inked these. You don't have to ink yours, but you can see some of the tonal differences in the outlines and inside. And I wanted to give it a little more of a rustic basket look. So that's one thing you'll notice. So we have our basket pieces here, 2 of each. Okay. We have our base for the dog. And by the way, this is what I use to ink it. I use the same color on all of it. It's called Distressed Oxide Vintage Photo by Tim Holtz. And that's what I used to do the edges, shade the edges on a lot of these. So we have the back base piece, and I did both sides. We have the base head. Then we have that goes on top. This is his belly piece. Here's his back. And then we have the little facial pieces. All right, so we'll talk about that in a minute, but I'm just going to lay all of these out so we're ready to go. We have some extra straps if you need them or want them, and then we have a little bow. I'm just going to choose one of the bows. We'll go with the little bow with the ribbons. Okay, and then I have some of my other supplies. You're going to need either a ruler or a scraper tool to fold the edges really nice and crisp. Okay, so I'm going to put that over there. And for some of the smaller pieces, I like to use something to pick them up because they do get a little small. All right, so we have some little extra pieces over here I'll get to in a minute, but let's first start putting them together so that you can see what we're going to do and then fold on the score lines. All right, so we do have some other pieces here as well and these are the ribbons that go across here in the basket. So we'll lay that there. I'm going to put the back aside for a minute, and we're going to start with the straps. And the reason why I'm starting with the straps is because it's going to take a few seconds to really dry, and you don't want to get this curl too quickly, because if you bend it too quickly and the glue is wet, it will kind of fold and give some wrinkles in there. So I'm going to start with the straps. And then I am using a liquid glue. I'm using the Art Glitter. Love this glue. You can use whatever glue you have on hand. All right, so I'm just gonna open this cap, make sure nothing is stuck in there. Okay, so first thing first, you want to make sure that you are lining up the strap with the holes. And this is the hole where you're gonna put the brad in. If you can see here, there is a nice little brad that allows you to move it. Now, if you want your stationery, we do have, I did make some little buttons for it, and I just can't find them in here. Oh, here they are. So you can lay out and you can put a stationary button. It's just going to either have to stay up or down. All right, but I put holes in these so that you can line them up, and they should easily line up on each side, okay? Because I did measure them out. Now, I did ink this as well to give it more of a leather look, and I'm just going to kind of put a little glue on the edges. And I'm not glopping it, I'm trying to kind of like put more of dots around there. And then I'm going to line this up. Oops. There we go. Lay that flat. Make sure there's no glue coming out on the edges. All right, and we're going to lay that one aside. And again, I just want to get it flat and let it dry so that when I do bend it, it's not going to cause a problem. All right, I'm going to do the next one. I'm going to lay that one aside, and then let's start with getting our pieces folded. Now, for these side panels, I used like a craft a craft cardstock, so it's a little more rough, but I was going for that, and I use the same thing for the inner part as well. So this has more of a texture to it, but to me it kind of blended in with the basket. So whether you have, I use score lines for this, whether you use the dotted lines or the score lines, or I should say the slashed lines, dashed lines, you're going to fold it the same. So I like to use two things when I do this. I like to use a ruler and a scraper. So the scraper is going to get a crisp fold, so I'm just going to fold it over in those areas, and I'm going to fold this one in. Okay, and then let me find this one as well. So I'll fold that one in, get a nice crisp fold. Okay, now for the edges, oops, and we have one more at the top, so let's get that folded. Okay, now there's some other folds. Once we glue this down, and that's what I'm going to do first, I'm going to glue the tips of this down, and then we're going to be able to fold in those other lines, okay, that you see, that triangular shaped line. So let me get some nice on the edges. And I'm just going to hold that a minute, let that dry while I do this one. Okay, and it should match up where the little edges, the little tabs are matching up when you fold it in, and that's really important to have there. Okay, all right, now there's a couple more score lines here. So there's one right in the center, and the center, if you notice, I'll show you on here, the center gets pushed in. So if this is being folded out, okay, then that piece will be pushed in. So all you're going to do is push it in on that fold line and pinch it with your fingers all the way down to that little tab, okay, all the way down to that point, okay. And you can use your scraper tool, a nice fold. So that's what it's going to look like. And then there's two others, little score lines that create that triangle shape, and they're going to go the opposite way, okay. If you just play with it a little bit, it's because you're not going to see it where the fold is. Just play with it a little bit, go gentle and as slow as you want. It doesn't have to be a quick process. And then it's going to feel odd folding this, but it works out in the end. And you're just going to pinch it. Okay, we don't need to create a like super fold. It's just going to give a little give in the purse so that if you do want to close it, you can put a tab on that. You could put some Velcro, and a lot of people like to close the top of their gift bags, and it just works out nice. It just gives a little give. Okay, you can even pinch it together like that. Okay, and it's also a little more professional looking than just having just a flat slab on the edge. Okay, so here we go. Now I'm just going to let it, you know, sit back out because I know how it folds and it's ready to fold for me. So what I'm going to do is lay it on its back. So whichever side you have the crease bending in, that's going to be the outside. This is the inside. Now I want to put up these tabs, but rather than going one by one, what I'm going to do is put the ruler here right next to it. And I find this easier if you get a scraper, come underneath, and then just a few at a time bend up. Okay, you're going to get a nice crisp, and you can run along it, that ruler. Let me turn it the opposite way. I'm just lining this up to where the tabs, the point of the tab meets back in on the paper, and then just using my scraper tool to push under it and fold. Push under and fold. I missed one. And you can use your fingers if you need to. That really doesn't want to get up there. And then you get some nice crisp tabs sticking up. Let's do the next one. So this part, this will be going on the inside, so that's why there's no tabs. So this one's a little easier to do. And then I'm just going to line this up. So before I put this aside, what we're going to do is we're going to attach this and then let this dry in the meantime while we put our basket together. So the top is the folded area, and the reason why I had this folded down is to give it a little more secure top. It's a little sturdier and it just looks nicer. So if you're looking at the basket here, you can see that it really has just a nice little, it's secure, it's very firm. This whole basket is super firm, but it's also cleaner looking. If you just have like a straight cut piece, it just doesn't look as nice and polished. So now I'm going to take the edge that has no tabs, and I know that this side both has the folded edges, so they're going to go up and this is going to slip right inside, and it should match up perfectly with the edge to edge. Okay, so where this folds in, it should match perfectly. Now we're not going to place it square, it's actually going to curve a little bit, but let's get this attached so that when we are ready to curve it, we can. So I'm going to glue the bottom side of the piece with no tabs. Okay, you can glue inside here, it doesn't matter which one. This is just going to allow me to know a little bit more where that edging is and make sure I get super close to that edge, because you want to get enough glue here, but you don't want it spillage into outside the purse. Okay, so I'm just going to get the edges all around first. It is important to get the edges on both sides so that it doesn't peel up, whether it's inside or outside. Okay, now I'm just going to match it up to the edge to edge here, tuck it in, and then go right down to the bottom. I want to make sure that it is inside those tabs. Okay, and so when I fold this, that should meet up nice here. Okay, let's lay this aside and let this dry, and let's put our basket together. Okay, so let's do the strips first because they're going to go on top of the basket. When you're lining this up, you can see where the holes are. The holes are going to go down the shorter end onto the basket. So just line it up and you'll be able to see a little bit better. It will line up perfectly, okay, whether you're putting it, and this was measured, so it should match up perfect either way. You know, you flip it this way or this way, as long as you're not flipping it up the wrong way. So as long as it's going down, there's a shorter distance from where the hole is to the bottom. Okay, same with this one on both sides. Now, knowing that, I'm going to line this up the same way. Now with this, one of the things that you want to notice with, if you're using the polka dot, now you can just have a plain strip of color if you prefer to do that. It doesn't matter. But if you wanted a little more decorative and you're using the polka dot look, then one of the holes landed in the dot. So you're not going to worry about that. It doesn't matter. I think it does matter actually. So it's going to go on the left side. So if I go on the right side, oh, it lines up either way, on the left or the right side. So again, right or left, it doesn't matter as long as the holes match up, okay? But it will go through that little polka dot there that you see it. So I'm going to glue the polka dot, the blue, so that I get it nicely on. You don't have to go crazy, just get the edges more than anything. All right, and then this will lay right down because I know what I'm going to do is try and match up that hole. And I don't even have to match up the hole as long as I match up the edge. So I'm going to do it that way. If I match up the edge, it should flop right into place. So you can see as long as the two edges are lined up, then I got a little glue on the outside, then that hole lined up perfectly. And I don't know how well you could see that hole. Okay, and then that will go on top of there. All right, let's do the next one. All right, so once again, the hole lined up on both of them, and we'll set that aside. Now let's get our basket put together while these are drying, where the strips are drying. So the basket's going to line up nicely on the bottom. And again, this won't matter whether, now I inked one side of it, but it won't matter whether it's whichever way it's flipped. It should fit exactly the same. Okay, so on both of them. So once again, I'm just going to get the edges done first. So let's take, this is the inked side, so you can see the difference. No ink, and the ink gives it a little more rugged shading. And then I'm just going to match it up. If you match up one side of it, it should naturally fall into place. So I'm just going to angle this and match up the corner and corner to it before it glues down and lays down. There we go, and then boom, right into place. So this was an easy match up. Okay, let's put that aside and we'll do the other one. All right, now we're going to lay our decoration on the inside. This is the material part of the basket. And then we're going to put a little shadow underneath of it. Okay, but I'm going to get this one on first. So I just want to make sure I line up the holes. So do a little double check that when you lay it down, you can see those brad holes. All right, I'm going to once again put the edge off to the other edge, and it should match up perfectly. Okay. Let's do this one, and it kind of fits right in because there's a little lip here from putting the basket on, and it's going to fit right snugly there. Now we can put our piece of dark brown as a shadow underneath to give it a little dimension. And there is a way that this goes and a way it doesn't go. So if you look at the edge here, it is curved just the same exact way that the lip of the basket curves. So you want to make sure that the top part is curving in slightly, okay? And that's the way it will go. So I'm going to flip this over. Just going to get a little strip on here of glue. Don't put too much, so you don't want it all running everywhere. Whoops. I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to line it up, and it should line up perfectly and snugly right under. It's going to fit right under that blue part of the polka dot. Now, one thing is that you don't have to use the colors I used, whether it's for the basket or whether it's for the ribbon. I liked the blue with this. I was drawn to it as something different, but a red and a white would look really gorgeous with that, as well as using different colors, maybe even a red basket or a blue basket. All right, now we're ready to put the basket together. Let me put this other strip back on, and then we're ready to put the basket. So I'll do this quickly. All right, now we're ready to put the basket together. So I'm just going to show you what it looks like underneath. So you can see that it is flat. The purpose of it being flat is so that it sits nice. It's not going to be wobbly. It's very sturdy. But then around the corners, this is where you're going to slightly curve it. And that's the purpose of having all of these little tabs. It allows you to make the paper do what you want. You can have it curve as much as you want. But the bottom, because we put the two pieces of paper together, it's pretty flat and sturdy, and that's exactly how I want it. Now, when you're doing this, you're going to have to kind of eyeball up where the center is. So the way I'm doing it is I know that this is the centerpiece. This is the bottom. So I'm just lining up and I'm eyeballing where it's going to go. And you can kind of eyeball it on here so you can see where the curve ends. So that's where on both sides, you're going to have these little creases, these fold marks, these score marks line up right where you can see the curve end. So I'm just going to line it up here, I'm going to line it up there, and we're just going to glue the tabs. Now, I actually want to flip it this way because to me it's better when I'm using my right hand. But first I'm just going to get the glue on. It doesn't really matter yet to get that into place. Let's get that glue on the one side of this. Okay, so I'm only going to glue the areas, and I'll kind of show you by folding these back down. I'm only going to glue the areas in between that one middle section. So we're going to do this in 3 sections, 1, 2, 3. All right, so I'm just going to glob this glue on each tab, and I would not use hot glue. Use a regular liquid adhesive, something like this. Also, that I think there's a few glues out there, but your glue that you use is really important. And I love this glue. It just dries nice and gives you the amount of time that you need to work. So I'm lining this up. I'm just going to fold this down so I can see a little bit better. So I'm lining this glued strip up right in that center where, right before it begins to curve, and I'm going to fold these over. Okay, so it's kind of butt up against it, and as I fold it over, once it's down, I'm going to fold this up, and I'm feeling on the inside of this. I'm running my fingers along here to make sure that this is flush. Okay, it's really important. So give it a second. You don't have to move it around. Just let those center tabs be flush. So feel on both sides. You can kind of push them together and let it be flush. Okay, once you do that, you're going to see it fits nicely. That one's a little bit off. There we go. So it should fit really nicely. Perfect. That's exactly how I want it. Now I'm going to go to the next area. So I'm going to flip it over for this, and I'm going to put the glue on, and then I'll put it down to give myself some stability. But once this is on, let's see. I'm going to lift this one up, and I'll redo that one as well, because it didn't stick as good as I wanted. All right, so what I'm going to do here is, just so you can see it, I'm going to hold it this way so I can get that glue on the inside. I'm redoing that one, that little tab. And we're going to do this fairly quickly. I'm going to get this glue on these tabs. Now I'm laying it down. Now this is going to be, this is probably the most difficult part of the whole thing, which isn't difficult. But I'm doing this slowly, and I'm bending it as I go around, okay? And I'll show you in a second what I'm talking about. Let me just get it into place. I'm pushing it out and bending it around this curve, okay? So you can see on the inside that these tabs are starting to overlap, and then I'm gonna get these in place. So with this craft paper, because it's so fibrous, it is important to give it a second and hold it in place. Now, if you're using a smoother cardstock or a different glue, it may immediately stay, but the fibers in here just make it a little more difficult to work with, but it's worth it for this because I really like the look of this. All right, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to fold this out, and I think that'll be easier so you can see what I'm doing. So once again, I'm going to get these tabs all done here, all glued up, and you can see I'm pretty generous with this glue, especially because of the type of cardstock I'm using. You may want to use less if you're using a smooth cardstock. So I'm going to put this down because I find it easier to work with, and maybe you'll be able to see a little bit better angle. So I'm just doing it a little at a time, and I'm getting that curve in there. I'm pushing it out. You can be forceful. You are in control. The paper does not control you. All right, just give it a second to dry, and then we can do the top part. So once again, I'm going to do the same exact thing. This time I'm going to have it sit up, and I'm using that center pieces first. Let me push this in, and hopefully you'll be able to see it a little bit better. So first thing I'm going to do is glue this down, and then I'm going to lay it between those two areas that are not yet curved. Okay, so let's get the glue on here. So I'm going to lay this down. I'm positioning it directly in that area. And I'm going to lay these tabs down. I'm going to fold this up and make it flush on the bottom. You can see already it's going to fit nicely. Now notice I haven't put this side on yet, but the top does not completely fit flush to the top, and I wanted that on purpose for two reasons: to give you a little give in case you do a little more square look. So if I did it a little more square and less curving to the corner, which you can do, it's going to fit all the way to the top. It's just going to look a little more square here. Okay. Either one, there's no right or wrong. It's your design, however you want to assemble it together. I preferred the curved look to it. So I gave a little leeway to for mistakes because we are human and we do make mistakes here. All right, now let's put together one side. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over so that I can get that curve correct. And I'm only doing like 3 tabs to start with, and I'm getting that curve right before I lay the other tabs down. So then once I do, I'm pushing in with my thumb on this side, pushing that one in and getting the rest of it straight. So it's only around the bottom that's curved, and I'm using my hand on the inside, this thumb particularly, to get it straight as I push in and round out. So my fingers on the inside are keeping it where I want it. I'm getting those tabs flat. There we go. You can see it's not taking long this to get it to sit exactly where you want. The glue is not taking long to dry. If you were using a hot glue gun, you would have a lot of difficulty. You wouldn't be able to do all the tabs at once, and once you put that hot glue on, it would be immediately sticking. So do use a liquid glue for this. All right, the last section is going to be a little more difficult because you're going to have to get into this little crease here and really stick that nozzle in to spread around that glue. So I'm going to flip this over and get it into place using my left hand on the inside this time to curve it. I'm only going to do those 3 tabs around the bend first. The other ones are not touching yet, and I'm just getting it curved. I'm kind of pushing it in with my right hand here and pushing out with my left hand that's inside the basket. And then I'm just going to lay the other ones down. All right, so it's looking good here. You do have a squared off bottom, and then it curves around. And because I put a lot of glue here, it's very difficult to see that lip. But this is the lip, but it doesn't look much different from, this is a fold, and this is the 2 pieces of paper glued together. So by getting that a lot of glue on that lip area, it makes it, you know, it's not gonna pull up. It's very secure, and you're not gonna really see or notice it as different. All right, inside looks good as well. We have our little pinch folds. You can pinch it a little bit more at this time to get those little folds the way you want. All right, now our straps. So our straps had time to dry. So this is where I'm going to take my fingers and I'm putting it in between my 2 fingers here. And I'm just kind of going around to curve this, just to bend it a little, because I don't want to bend completely and get a fold in there. So I'm using the paper and the glue to get that little bend. All right, that was enough that it's going to give me a nice curve when I put this together. Now, this is the part where you can decide, do you want to just glue it, or do you want to use the brads? If you're gluing it, you can use you can just glue it right on, and there are little button shapes that you can add to it for decorative purposes and to hide the hole that's inside of it. I want to use the brads, and I want to show you how to use them. So let me grab my brads here, and I put them all in a little container. And the brads, they used to have a different name, but I'm going to show you what they are if you're not familiar. These are the old time, I'm old school, so this is like the old file folders where, you know, you used to, you know, you had the hole punch, and then you had the little gadget. There's another name for it, I know there is, because we used to use them in school all the time. But one side's smaller than the other, and you just use your fingernail to separate the brad, and then it separates. So very simply, we're going to line up that hole, and it doesn't matter which side goes where because they are measured, and so each one is exactly the same vertical and horizontally. All right, so I'm going to just use this one. I should use a different one, but I'm going to put it first in just the strap, and then I'm going to fit this in the hole. Okay, so once it's in there, now I'm just going to fold it back so that it stays. Let's get this other one on. So once again, I'm going to put this in. Before I actually put it into the next one, I'm going to separate it because it's easier to separate it when you can see it a little bit, and then just to have a little opening, so when I put it into this hole, I don't have to struggle finding where that little lip is to separate it with my fingers while it's in a small space. So we have the one handle. Now let's get the other one. So first I'm going to once again curve this strip, and you can use a piece of wood if you don't want to use your fingers, because I don't like to use, I always make sure my hands are washed and clean and I haven't eaten any food, but if you could use a wooden dowel, you can use your scraper tool if you prefer not to use your fingers for that, and this works really well as well. Okay, and then once it is ready, I'm just going to do a little bit more here just to get it a little curved. And again, it's going to keep it from getting those wrinkles. All right, so here we go. We have our basket with the hooks. Looking good, exactly what we want. All right, we can set this aside. So I'm going to put that over there, set this aside. Let's work on our dog card. Just so you know, for the basket, if you were doing a version where you wanted to, instead of making a basket, you can create a card out of this, which could be super cute, or you can have the dog in the basket with the little feetsies out, and instead, if you want to use it stationary, you're not going to want to use that. So I do have these in a smaller version, and you can put them down, you can put them up, and again, that's for if you wanted to create a card with this on the front with that design, and then you'll have your little button that you can lay on it, oops, so that you have the design laying on there for your card. Okay, and again, that's if you did a card version versus the actual gift basket that we have here. So we're going to get the dog together. And before we do that, let's get all of our things. We have the dog, we have the dog's belly, but we need his feet. Here's part of his nose. Now, when you print this out, you're going to have a lot of extra pieces. So let me just bring this over so you can see what I have here. So here's his back and his tail. So we'll put that over there. And here's his paws, okay? And there's a lot of extra pieces that you may not use or may not seem like you need, but I want to show you when you are putting it together, there's little pieces such as the pieces for some of the face. They are used, I would save these, and I'll show you why you might want to save them so that you can use them to plug up the holes. Because I put the holes in here so that you can match up where the eyes, the nose, and the mouth go, but you may not need them. But let's get our little pieces together that we do need, and I'll put this off to the side in case we want to use those extra pieces. All right, so we have the pupils, we have the white of the eye, we have the mouth, the nose, here's the other piece of the nose, and we have his little toenails, okay, and the tongue, we can't forget the tongue. So let's see how this goes together. The first thing, let's get his feet together. And his feet go a particular way, so they should have each be where, it doesn't matter how you put them on, but there is a smaller section and then a larger curve. So you can see the smaller fur will go on by the smaller side. Now if you put it on backwards, nobody's going to notice and it's not going to be that big of a deal, okay? But there is a specific way that it did go originally. And then you have the little toenails, okay? So you should have 3 for each, and it seemed like I am either missing 1 or 2. Oh, there's one over here. And then you should actually have 7 of them because there is one, oh, there it is, that goes and it's used as the highlight on his nose. So I'm going to cover that. I'll keep that one as his highlight. And we'll go over that in just a second. Let's do the feet first. So let me move aside the face, And that way we can get, because there's so many little small little toenails on this. So let's get these feet out of the way. So I'm just going to add my glue to this and line that up. Do that on both of these. And the way I'm lining this up is I'm putting it flush to the top so that there is a little shadow on the bottom where his toes are. Okay, so once again, I'm lining it up flush to the top. Okay, the small little piece of the fur goes on the small rounded corner, and the larger fur goes on the larger rounded corner. Okay, now to get his little toes here, it doesn't matter, they're all different, I should say. The toes are all different shapes, but it doesn't really matter in the end. So I'm just going to put a little dot of glue on each of the center curves. And now I'm going to try and use something to pick this up and put them on. So the way I like to do it is, if you feel like there's one that's larger, like this one seems slightly larger, then I'm going to put this on the outer toe. Okay. So this seems larger. I'll put it on the outer one. So you're going to get two that go facing in, meaning the point faces in. So this I have to flip over. This is super helpful when picking up small pieces. And then I can just kind of push this around to get it to fit on there and tap it down. And once again, it is your design, and you can put the toes on any way you want. I like them where they're curved in, two on the outers are curved in, and then the one that's on the inside curves the other way. That's how I prefer to do it, but you can make his toes any way that you prefer. Okay, so we're going to set these aside, and I still have one little piece here that's going to go on top of his nose when we're done. So I can show you what this looks like. I'm going to put this over here so that we can kind of I can kind of point out what exactly we're doing. So the first thing I'm going to do is put his nose together, and then I'm just going to put a little glue on this. And then just stick that down. Oops. And make sure it's even, sits even. So I'm using my fingers just to go on both the right and left and top and bottom, just to make sure it's fitting proper. All right, now you can see the little highlight on the nose. This is up to you if you want to add it. I like highlights because a highlight gives just life to a character. So we always try to put highlights in the eyes, as well as if you have a certain area that sticks out, such as the nose. So I want this to kind of face where it's angled. The point is going on the outside. I'm just going to tap this and put that slightly on there, okay? Just to angle in and give him a little highlight. And his nose will stand out a little bit more with that highlight. Let's put the nose off to the side. All right, now before I do the eyes, you can see I'm avoiding the hard part. Let me get the bow in place here. And this should fit either way. There's no right or wrong. It's going to, whether it's right or left, it's not going to matter. And I'm just going to kind of put a few little dots on here to get the glue. I don't want to overdo that glue. And then just line this up. All right, so there we go with the little ribbon that will go in the hair. You can see it's a different ribbon from the sample because you'll have a choice of either one. I'll put that over there. And now this is the back of the eye. So it's the eyelash, but it's also, it will give depth to the eye. So darkness recesses things, and then light makes things pop out. That's why we have a highlight on the nose. So the white of the eye is bigger than the pupil. So here's the pupil. You're going to see that there's a hole in it. So the way it's going to sit on this is flush to the top. And if you put it flush to the top, then you should have some white sticking out on the bottom. Whoops. And these are small pieces, so if you have something, a tool that can help you pick them up, it really makes a difference. I love this jewel picker upper because the wax just does a great job grabbing things for long enough for when I need it. All right, so that's the way it should look like, and then it's going to go on top of the eyelashes. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to put the glue on the black so that I don't get any in the white hole. You don't have to glob this on. And then I'm just going to kind of hold this in place and we'll plop it down there. Okay. I'm going to move it around. I'm trying to get that, the hole to be centered at the top so that she doesn't look cross-eyed when I put it on. So this one, just make sure when you're doing the other eyelash that the lash is going to go out in the opposite way. Okay, now we're going to do the white of the eye. And I'm going to add the glue to the black pupil first. And this, I feel like, is the hardest part. So I'm going to use my tweezers here. And I'm just going to lay it at the top here so that it is flush. So you can see it's lined up at the top. You don't see any black, and it should give you enough of the white. If you want more white, just push it up a little higher. You know, it's nobody's going to see that in the end. So once again, I'm just going to lay this on here so we could kind of line that up and see how do you want the eyes. So let me push these off. Okay, and then I'm just going to dab some glue in the center. So this is, you're going to just have to eyeball up, and don't put too much glue because you don't want it to smush out of the edge. So let me just grab this and I'm just going to position it in the center as best as you can and just hold that down. There we go. So now we have our face all ready to go. And before we get started, I just want to make sure I'm putting everything in in the right direction, that I know this is the back of the dog. So I'm going to put his little fur and tail on the back immediately. So I'm going to lay this down by lining up the bottom here, and it should fit pretty snugly. Okay. And then when you put your tail on, the tail should go a little bit lower than I did on this one. I put the tail up a little too high, I feel like, for a dog sitting. I have 2 Yorkies, so this looks like my one Yorkie called Cookie. So it was kind of after her. So I'll lay that tail down there. But I have my other dog, which is Bella, has more of the golden colors like this. All right, so now we're ready to put this together. The next one to go on is the dark. So this is the base, and then the belly will go on here, and you can decide where you want to put the belly. I like it a little higher. In fact, I usually position it to where the first fur comes down. That's where I like to kind of have it so that it sticks out from under. You can see here. So it sticks out from under the chin. Now, if you can also print something out first on cardstock, print a message, and then cut it out on the Cricut machine, or you can, you know, cut it out, write something, use the Cricut Maker or Cricut machine to have use a pen on that is another option. So there's a lot of things you can do, or you can stamp a message on there. If you have something that's more generalized and it's not super personal, just get one of your stamps, you know, that says happy birthday, I love you, thinking of you, and stamp that right on that belly. Okay, now we're going to set this aside and we're going to fill the head up, because when we do this, the head is not going to be glued completely on here, and I'm going to tell you why. You want to leave some room for the head to slip inside and hold on. That's part of the card, okay? So that it will hook onto the basket. All right, so I'll just lay this up here. Now we're going to take that base. I use that as a guide, the back of the dog, so that I know what side to kind of layer this up. So here is the next piece. Just want to make sure that it's going on correctly. And that looks good. I'll lay this down, and we really want to get the edges on the ears. This is important to do. All right, so I'm using this to kind of pick this up. Oh, there we go. And you can line this up from the bottom or the ears or anywhere, but just find an area that lines up, and the rest should lay flat and easily come together. So I'm just lining that bottom up where the little fur pieces come out, and then I'm going to lay that down, and it's just fitting right into place. I have to just pull the ears a little bit. Oops. Okay. Now we're going to get the next piece. I think this is the piece that just makes them look so cute. So I didn't want to make it difficult to line this up and get the face the way you want it, or, you know. So what I did is I put little holes where the eyes are. Okay, so you're just going to line up the eyes, and then it'll show you where the nose will go eventually. All right, and once again, I use that same Distress Oxide ink in Vintage Photo to shade the edge, and I think that just really looks super cute. He's already coming together when you see that. Kind of like that, even if you had like little black dots for the eyes and a black nose, you could even stop there and it looks super cute. Okay, now, whoops, this is sticking on there still. But I'm going to save this. When I was talking about earlier, some of these little pieces, I'm going to pull them out because I think they're super helpful. But let me first glue this down, and I'll show you exactly why they are helpful to keep. All right, so once again, I'm going to line up the eyes. That's what's really important to do. Now, there is a way that this fits better. So when you're putting this down, or when you're deciding which way you want to put this on, just make sure that it's even on both sides, okay? Because you could slightly angle it a different way and it could get off. All right, isn't that cute? Now, these, when we're putting the eyes on, the eyes are going to lay on top, and sometimes getting the glue can be a little difficult. So if you want, you can pop these in here, and it just builds this area up, but it still keeps it to where you see and can match up those circles. Let me pop that out. Okay, and I found that very helpful. So what I'm going to do is just add a little bit of glue, not a lot, and then pop these right in the center. That way, when I glue this on, there's not a hole that will, be sunken in to not allow me to put that on there. Okay, so I'm going to line up the next one. And he's starting to develop. Now, before I put this one on, okay, you're going to notice with the dog that his mouth is under the nose, okay? And it's under this fur. So this is where we're going to put the mouth on, and we want to match it up to where the nose is. So that's how everything is matching up perfectly. So this gets matched up under the nose, just flush right in the center. And then once you do that, you can put the tongue on as well, matched flush as well. Once again, this is just going flush right up to the nose. Now, a lot of the little Yorkies the teacup Yorkies, as they'll call them, have the little tongues that stick out. Mine does, but my Bella is the lighter one. She's a little bit bigger and her tongue doesn't stick out, but it's so cute. Cookie's tongue is always sticking out and it just makes me laugh. And it has since she was a baby been like that. All right, so let's get this glued on now that we have the tongue. And I'm also going to put a little in the center here and get this nose on. Because I know where it's going to go now, so I can place that in the center, line up the eyes. So once again, I'm going to put some glue inside here. And I have a couple more pieces that I can just pop in there. They don't totally match, but that's okay. I just took the wrong ones. Okay. And then we can match up the nose. So I'm just going to fill this in, fill in the gap. Again, you don't have to add the nose back in, but I like the flush gap, okay? So this piece is going to match exactly on top of that nose area, all right? Okay, now again, you see the roundness down here, that matches up with the nose. So everything should match up somehow, some way. It's all going to fit together like a puzzle. So I'm going to put this right around the bottom of that nose, and this is that strip of shadowy. If you have a Yorkie, you'll know what I'm talking about. A lot of them have like a dark fur right between their eyes. And even for the ones that don't have the dark fur, what the darkness is doing is it's receding to make it look like this area, the bridge of the nose, is pushed back, okay? So you're getting a receding. Now we could put the nose, and the nose should fit exactly perfect with the little rounded, kind of pinched in smaller curve at the bottom. So I'm just gonna add some glue to the back of this. Line that up. And there we go with the nose. Now, last but not least are the eyes. And I want to get this flush again. So I'm just going to put a little glue in here. Now, if by chance you did not save these little pieces, it's okay. There's enough room around the edge of the eye that you can still glue it nicely and it's not going to sink in. It's just a bonus if you can. All right, so let's get this eye on. And then just line that up. Now, I don't know if you can see, but right down in this bottom section, there's a curve, and I made that specifically for where the eye will fit, okay? So regardless, if you could put it anywhere. If you want your eyes higher, you know, you want them further apart, it's totally up to you, but where this curve is on the dog is where the eye is meant to fit. So everything has a puzzle, everything has a plan to where it goes, just a specific design for placement. However, it's up to you if you want to follow that. I like to use my glue, as I call it, the paper picker upper. It's got enough stickiness that you can grab things with it. So I'm going to line it up right under that bottom curve, and I'm making the eyelashes go in the direction that I want. Remove any of the excess glue. So we have our dog's face, and now he or she is ready to go on the card. Now, if you are making it a card, it's nice to have the back because it makes it sturdy in order for it to fit. When you're gluing this on, you don't want to glue it completely down. You're not going to glue all the way to the bottom because you want a little slit area for two reasons: so that it could fit in your basket, okay, and also so that you can see the message on the inside a little bit. You know, maybe you have the person's name or something special hidden. It's kind of like a hidden message. All right, you can even, I didn't want to, but you can even fold this and make it to where it actually completely opens up. Just put a little score line in there. I, again, did not want to do that, but that is possible. Now, in order to do this, I'm going to glue the back instead of gluing the dog. That way I know exactly where it's going to go. So this is why I put the message all the way up to this little first piece of fur, because this is where I'm going to glue, right here. And I'm going to put a line first to signify it. Now, everything from there up is what you're going to glue, but nothing below. All right, now I'm going to line this up, and you should be able to line it up any direction, whether it's at the ears, whether it's on the side to side. So I'm just going to do side to side here, lining up this first corner, and it should fall right into place onto the other ear, and then just lay it flat, and you can check it from the back. So if you see a little edging over here, just while you still have some room, you can slide it over, okay? And I have some inking, so it's going to be darker a little bit over there anyway. If you want to make it a boy, you can take this and you can put a little bow tie down at the bottom here and make a little boy dog, okay, if you prefer to do that. So maybe I'll make him a boy, and then I'd have a boy and a girl. Okay, maybe I'll do that instead. Let me glue this real quick. So I'm going to I'll do it a little different. I'm just going to put a little glue on the upper area. That way we'll see it when he's hanging over the basket as well. And then you can have that hidden little message on the inside. So again, if you have that score line, it will really push through. It's still not dry yet, so I don't want to play with it too much. Okay, so we'll let that dry. Now, with your feet, you have a couple of options. So you can see I have multiple toes. So I could put toes here, and I can put toes on the edge, and it really completes the dog. You know, he's not just hanging over the basket, he's actually holding the message. Or you can put the little feet up top here, you can have feet at the bottom, and then you have it multiple ways going on here. So I kind of originally, my idea of the basket was so that the feet would hang over like this, you know, instead of holding the message, but it's completely up to you. You could do one of both, but if you're doing that, you're going to have to duplicate the little feet. All right, so I'm just going to glue some feet on the bottom. And again, when I'm doing this, I'm putting the rounded side on the like more rounded, they're both rounded. So the fatter edge on the outside, and then the thinner edge on the inside. Okay, so what I'm going to do to make it look super cute is I'm going to instead of gluing it on the basket, because I really like the dog as it is, I'm just going to glue the little bit of the feet right under his chin. So I did a little bit higher, and this way you can glue the feet directly on the basket if you want, but having the feet glued to the face, he looks even cuter. If you don't want the paws hanging out the basket, you can put the paws here, or you can leave the paws in the basket, or you can leave them off completely. It's totally up to you. I think it's just a really great look when you originally see the dog, to see him hanging out of the basket like that. It's just super cute. And it also allows you to put the handles up so that he fits nicely in there. Okay, so handles down, handles up. It's not affecting it, but he's still sitting out there. So super cute. All right, well, that is it. The basket is put together. All next thing you need to do is put your gift on the inside, write your message, put your gift on the inside, and give it to somebody special. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope to see you soon. Have a great day.